As a born and bred African, here are some cultural shocks that I witnessed when I moved into the UK labor market.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be talking about some corporate culture shock that hit me when I got into the UK and especially when I got into the professional space. As a born and bred Africa, there were some culture shock that I felt or I witnessed when I transitioned into the professional space. There were quite a few of them. I'll be mentioning 10 in this video. And the reason why I'm mentioning those 10 is so that we will all learn together. I sort of feel that it's fun and I feel that some of them are funny. I've categorized them as the good, the bad, and still figuring. So the last bit will be the ones that I'm still figuring. So let's get started and let's jump into it. The first is the detailed reporting culture. British people are very detailed. And I feel that it's a positive, and that's why it's my top. So for me, it's a good thing. I'm really learning how to be as detailed as they are. So there are things that I will do and my other colleague, I will work on a particular project with my colleague, and the way that they are going to report that project will be far away from the way I'll report mine. So for me, and I'll take that even people, those of us back home, back in Africa, we will summarize things, we try to put things in a lot of themes, we don't say the nitty-gritties of everything that goes on in a meeting or in a project, we don't say all of that. But our British counterparts, our British colleagues will do every detail, everything. So let's use a typical example, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate with this, right? You go out for a meeting, and so let's use the stuff of a banker back home in Africa. You go for a meeting as a banker, you go and close a deal, you would have probably gone with your account opening package, and all the forms and all that. So immediately you're closing that deal, you're sending those forms to maybe the customer, sending an email and everything. So you're doing all of that. But if we want to report that thing that we did, we will report the fact that we went out, we closed the deal, the amount. So those other little things like sending out the email, send out an account opening package, we will not mention it. And it's not because we are being lazy. I think it's just the way that we are wired. That's our culture. Because you're sending out forms. Why? Yeah, everybody knows that you send out forms. But here, you go out, they'll say things like, oh, I went out, as we're going with this individual, when we went to the office, I brought out the forms, I gave them the form, they filled the form, they were excited, we were happy, we talked about their personal life, they told me about their son, they told me about their daughter, and all those very, very little things that we will not talk about. So, office system. I love the open office system in the UK. So you go out, you go to an office, most of the time there's no office tag, there's no name tag, there's no title tags on the door. So it just feels like everybody's equal. They're trying to create an equal system. So yeah, and it sort of shows. You sit down in the office sometimes, you sit down with your director in the office, you sit down with a lot of people in the office that you will not even know that they are the directors. So I'll use an example. There was a day I went for an on-site meeting, not in my office, but in another site. So on getting there, I had not booked an office space. I got there earlier. I felt okay, I could walk from there until the time for the meeting. So because I didn't book an office space, I went to the receptionist and I asked her to please, if she could give me, the keys to a spare office so I could use. So she was like, yeah, let's go. She went with me to that office, took me into the office and everything. She just said it in passing. I don't think she said it to make me cringe, but I think she just said it in passing that, oh, this is the office that the chief executive normally uses whenever she is in. Immediately, that uptight, I was uptight and I was feeling like, am I, what am I doing? But, why am I sitting there? Because culturally, that's where I'm coming from. As an African, there's this respect, and we don't. I feel like I shouldn't be sitting in the office of the MD or the office of the CEO. So the third point is feedback. They give feedback in the UK, and I feel like they really give feedback for everything. They give feedback for the good, they give feedback for the ugly, they give feedback for anything and about everything. Something as little as you helping somebody pick up something to them, they will say, oh, that was really helpful, thank you. Oh, Ash helped me to pick up this document, Ash helped me to send that email, Ash helped me to do this, and they will give feedback for that. That's the good part of the feedback. But the bad part of the feedback is, of course, that if you go somewhere you don't do something well, you just be rest assured that information will go back to your bosses, that information will go back to your managers. That's the bad part of it. And I also feel like back home we trivialize feedback because we feel like that's your job. I don't think it's a bad thing, but seeing the flip side of it, I also feel now that maybe we can do it. Maybe we can begin to give people feedback even for little things or for things that we feel that they are being paid to do. This fourth one, dress code, for me it's in the middle. I won't say it's good, I won't say it's bad, because it has it has both sides. The good part of it is you're not really bothered about dressing so putting on your best clothes when you're going to the office, because you might just be overdressed. However, the bad part is I sort of feel like underdressed all the time that I go to the office. And I miss my skirts, I miss my dresses, I miss my high heels, I miss all of those things like I would do back home in Africa. Another thought that came to my mind is that half of the times back home we buy imported clothes. So when we buy imported clothes, and I want to believe that the clothes are coming from the UK, they're coming from America, they're coming from Turkey, they're coming from all of those places, and I'm now here in the UK and I don't see those dressing, I don't see those dress sense. Please help me drop in the comment section if you feel like back home in Africa we dress more like the Americans. I've not been to America, so I cannot really say if they dress in America. I've seen it in their movies and I see that they dress on points in their offices and all that. Do we dress like the Americans? Or definitely we don't dress like the British people, because back home when you're going to the office you are all dressed. In fact, your shoes for the office, you got shoe for the office, you got shoe for church, here I don't really have a lot of shoes for the office, but I have shoes for other occasions more because I don't wear them. Rather, I just wear a trainer to the office. The next point is they ask you to do your job. And honestly, it's really confusing for me because this is what I've been paid to do. This is what my contract says I'm going to do. This is what my job description says I'm going to do. Why are you asking me in a way as if you are asking me if I want to do it? So I'll use an example. So they want you to send an email, you are working on a project, they want you to send an email, they want you to do a report. They're like, Ash, please can you help to this report? Do let me know if you can't do it. And I'm like, do you really want me to tell you that I can't do it? Or just tell me to do it. I mean, that's what I'm paid for, that's my job. Because back home, if it's your job, we'll just tell you, do it. Next point is about the way they are not afraid to say some things. And that's really big for me. I think I take it personal sometimes, especially when people say things like, I don't have the capacity to do that. But that's your job. So if you don't have the capacity to do that, who is going to do that? It's a little bit funny for me. Then secondly, they also say things like, oh, you're going for a presentation, just say, I just want to tell everyone that I'm not an expert in this field, but I'm just going to be doing this presentation. Okay. Yeah, I know that you're not an expert in this field, but if you're coming to do a presentation like we would do back home, we are expected to have researched, we are expected to have gone, read everything, because people would ask you questions that you're able to answer. So I'm still trying to figure that out. And I also think that it's a good thing. And I also think that is a bad thing, right? So for me, that's what it is. Also, the way that they speak, being soft spoken, is lovely. I love it. I like it. But I find it difficult to hear them sometimes, especially when you are in a gathering, that there are more people in the gathering and there is a microphone system and they are not using the sound system. You see the person saying things like, "Oh, I don't like talking into the microphone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me over there?" And I'm like, "We can't hear you." For me, because I'm used to loud sounds, I'm used to people speaking into the microphone. I use the microphone a lot. In fact, without the microphone, I'm sure that I'm speaking, and I'm sure some of them will think that I'm shouting. But that is that's who I am in terms of my culture, where I grew up, where I was bred, and that's how it's been to me. So coming here, I sort of strain my ears to hear half of the time when they're speaking, when they're presenting. Yes, they're soft spoken, but I find it difficult. So let me know how you have managed. So have you managed by sitting in front? Because that's what I now do. When I go for a meeting or when I go for an event, I try to sit on the front row because I know that I'll be struggling to hear whoever is talking that is not using the sound system. So I try to sit on the front row so that so that I can hear and I'm not straining myself. This next point is about the way they respect work-life balance. I love the fact that they respect work-life balance. However, I feel that there is a denial on the sense of urgency. I think they just hide under that. So when there are urgent things to do, they would say, "Oh, I'm done for the day. I can only do what I can do," and they will leave it and they will go. Honestly, this is my point of view. So I'm not generalizing this, but I sort of feel back home in Africa, there is a sense of urgency. So even if we are closing or you are finishing for the day and there is a job that cannot wait, I mean, we categorize a lot of things that they cannot wait, but in that regard. And I like the fact that they respect work-life balance. So I love the aspect that, when it's time for you to close or when it's time for you to finish for the day, you're not panicking. In fact, when it's like 4:45, you see a lot of people trying to shut down, trying to close up, finish their emails so that they can leave. And even if you're taking extra time, you will hear things like, "Oh, have you written it down? Are you going to take back that time much later?" So yeah, please let me know how you've been able to manage that. So I wanted to talk about this next point. And for me, I'm still figuring it out. I've not been able to get my head around it. So I will need some help today from people because I want you guys to tell me how you've managed or how you figured it out and how you've worked around it. It is the way that they share bills when we go for outing. And I don't know how it works, but I'm going out and I've come around to terms with it that when you go out with your bosses, when you go out with your colleagues, don't expect the highest paying person to pay the bill. I've come around that. That's fine. That's not a problem. But the issue that I have is I like to budget things. Yes, why can't we all pay the bills by ourselves? Why are we splitting the bills? So why are you giving me part of your starter that you ate for me to pay? So I've not been able to figure that out. So yes, I would like some understanding from anybody that have figured that out. Do you just go with that mindset of, okay, I can eat one meal and they'll split it? Or do you go with the mindset of you're not eating anything that whole day because you know that you'd eat your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and they'll split the bill for everybody and everybody's going to pay? How have you been able to manage it? I don't know. I've not been able to figure. Like I said, these ones, they are under the category of still figuring. So the next one is how they give gifts. How they give gifts to people at award, how their benefit system works. It blows my mind. Honestly, it blows my mind because, and I'm going to use different examples to express what I'm trying to say. The first is back home in Africa when we're gifting something, and I'm speaking typically as a Nigerian, something, little. We tend to want to give something big because it's a gift. It's either from an individual or it's coming from an organization. We tend to want to make it big. But over here, my first award that I attended in my place of work, and there was a gift for the best staff of the, best staff or something, and they gifted that person £50, and of course it was so huge. If that is a rude shock for me, don't be surprised, because that's where I'm coming from. The last but not the least is the way that they gossip. The way that they gossip, me, I cannot understand it. And I'm not saying that they frequently gossip, no. The part of gossip that I'm talking about is they are gossiping and you are hearing them. I don't understand. Is that gossip? It still blows my mind. I'm still figuring it out, because I don't understand how you be gossiping about somebody and the person will be hearing. Anyway, we've come to the end of this video. These are the 10 culture shocks, corporate culture shocks that I witnessed when I moved into the UK and when I got into the professional space. Which ones can you relate with? Let me know in the comment section. I want to know what you've experienced that is funny. I want to know what you have experienced that is good. I want to know what you have experienced that is ugly, so that we can all learn from it. Because the learning curve for me is I don't read meaning into a lot of things anymore. So those little things for me is what I want to hear that you've witnessed, that's going to help me, that's going to help somebody else. Come to the end of this video, guys. Please do well to like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until we meet in our next video, we'll be talking about something else. Have a lovely day. Bye.